short-term rentals. We got Kenny Bedwell with us on the show from STR Insights. Kenny invests in short-term rentals, and he also runs STR Insights, which is a data company that focuses on finding good short-term rentals. You know, as with all real estate, finding the right location, finding the right deal it's 90% of everything. If you can get a good deal and a good location, then it will solve most problems you're going to run into. So Kenny's going to show us how to do that. And I'm super excited to jump into this. Kenny, thanks for hopping on.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here, Gabriel. So
right on. We were talking right before we got on the show that we had Kenny is going to be hiking Mount Rainier, and I had done it back when I was a young lad. And so we were each reminiscing on how difficult it is to do something like that and come out the other side. Kenny, I told you before we got on here, we always like to start with stories. We like to start with, hear how people got to where they are. So why don't you start at the beginning of your story and tell us how you got here?
Yeah, it really not super exciting, but I started actually at Citibank. I was a data analyst, which I tell people all the time, like, oh, what do you do? And I start telling them and they fall asleep. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll just say data. I'll keep it simple at data analyst and worked in the equities market. But it was a lot of data science, looking at data and tracking these companies. And I wanted to start to get involved in real estate investing for some time. And this was in 2017 when I got my first property where I house hacked. I lived in one unit and rented the other unit out as an Airbnb. And the thing I found interesting about that investment was we were making 3 times what we could have made as a long-term rental. And so that got my wife into we're like, holy crap, we need to do more of these. And at that time I was living in New York. And so we bought some more in around the area, but I knew as I saw some of these other cities start to ban or regulate short-term rentals that, the good times would not last that long. And so we made it through COVID, and then, we started everything. And then lo and behold, a few years after, about 2 years ago, New York just banned short-term rentals for what we were trying to ones that you didn't live in, like non-owner occupied ones. So but before then, I was able to
is that New York, the entire state, or just New York City?
New York City, and then it's trickled down to all the other cities in the state of New York as well.
Interesting.
So, I still own real estate I still own a short-term rental in New York, but it's in a vacation market. And that's when I knew that they were going to ban not knew they were going to ban it, but I just saw the patterns and the community sentiment against it and the signs on the walls. And literally there were signs on the walls that said report illegal STRs and all this stuff, and
oh, wow.
we were legal,
crazy.
but you just know you're not wanted, it's only a matter of time. And so anyway, I started actually using data to find new markets to invest in that I didn't know about. And that's really where I started to expand. So today, fast forward to today, I still have short-term rentals in the state of New York, in upstate New York. I have property in Kentucky, North Carolina, Texas, Arizona, and a boutique hotel in New Orleans. That's making me pull my hair out right now. So it's
nice.
a whole other story.
We can probably get into that at some point, but nice, man. Well, I like your story, and I will say you're not the first person that came on that has done house hacking to get into real estate, but you are the first person that house hacked as an Airbnb. I've not heard of that, where you buy a duplex or whatever, and then one side, instead of renting it out long term, you rent it out as an Airbnb. That's pretty unique. And being next door, I'm sure it was a lot easier to manage that.
Yeah, it was, it was scary at first because you're like, I don't know these strangers. But then after a while, it was, it was totally fine. And we met some really cool people. In fact, one of my guests became a good friend of mine. He ended up moving to the area. We became friends, and then he's moved away. But I visited him at his new he lives in Louisville now, and I visit him there. And yeah, it's really fun, the people you meet on Airbnb.
So, yeah, I'm sure. So let's just dive right into the data side of things, because like I mentioned in the beginning of this, STRs they're one of the assets that people love the idea of owning, because it's a vacation home. You can use it at certain points. But the hard part is finding a property in a location that allows STRs. Like you mentioned, a lot of locations have shut down. especially the good ones. There's one out here called Leavenworth in Washington that is a beautiful city that is just perfect for short-term rentals, but they've completely eliminated any new STRs. You just can't have them. So finding a city that allows it, and then also a city that is in demand for short-term rentals is extremely difficult. What are the pieces of advice that you can give people to start the process of finding a deal themselves?
Yeah, so I have a 5-step process I teach people about that goes into how to find markets. There's really good data out there, but at the end of the day, you run into a problem that there's actually over 12,000 markets that you could invest into. And that's just too
Is
much to
that
go through.
major metros like MSAs, or is that
It's like
what do you
everywhere.
mean by markets? Is it
Like,
just a city or just like a major metropolitan area?
well, it's
There's
not, I mean,
12,000?
when you think about like short-term rentals are could be vacation markets, they could be metropolitan areas, they could be like wherever, you know.
Mm,
So there's 12,000, quote unquote defined boundaried markets that you can
for
search
STRs.
inside of Airbnb.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Okay.
Yeah. So that's a lot.
That's a
And,
lot.
like, no person has the mental capacity to go through that and memorize all of them and know all the rules and everything. It just doesn't make sense. So
Yeah.
what I tell people is start so number 1, we wanna look for markets that are drivable from cities. So the data says that the markets, and when I say data, it's revenue data is what I look at. So revenue data says that markets that are drivable, number 1, they tend to be a little more durable when it comes to the ebbs and flows in the economy. Meaning, flying destinations like, for example, we'll pick Nashville, Tennessee, or Miami, or Scottsdale, or San Diego. They tend to be more susceptible to people. Well, when things dip in the economy, when times are harder, things are more expensive, people cut flying first and then driving, right? So driving it becomes like this staple in this bedrock of less risk and safety, especially near national parks, state parks, getaway areas, tourist attractions, whatever it may be. Every single metropolitan city, wherever you're at, has some sort of places that people get away to.
Yeah. So break that down one step further. Drivable, how do you define that? And then when you're saying from cities, I mean, a city can be defined as a lot of things. Is there a certain population that you would consider to be, a major metro, or what?
I like to see like kind of like two major metros, So like for example, you're Seattle, like you have Seattle and oh my gosh,
Tacoma.
Tacoma. Yeah, thank you. And arguably Portland too, right?
Mm, yeah.
So I'm looking in areas that are about max 3 to 4 hours of these major cities.
Oh, 3 to 4 hours drive time.
Yeah.
That's a lot more than I thought. Thought you were gonna say like a half hour or an hour. Huh.
I
Okay.
I mean, people are like, when you think about it, like a weekend trip, and this is different for everybody, right? But like a weekend trip, people will drive a max 3 to 4 hours for a weekend trip.
Yeah.
And some people, someone will say, "Oh, I'll only drive half an hour." Okay, but you're not everyone, right? Like, go ask people and like poll this together. You will find that people will drive now 6 hours. That's a little bit far for a weekend trip. So, where are these destinations that are this max 3 to 4 hours? It could be half an hour away that works just fine too, but max 3 to 4 hour drive. Pull
Hmm.
that radius of two metropolitan areas, and you're actually going to get quite a decent sized list of markets.
Yeah.
So, yep,
Yeah, that encompasses a lot of space. 2 to 3 hour or 3 to 4 hours. You can 3 to 4 hours to a major metro is a lot of land out there. So yeah, makes sense.
yep.
Um, so that's you said 5 steps. That's the first is it needs to be drivable from cities. What's number two?
So number two is it needs to fit our budget. So
Hmm.
one of the things that and I'll say this, like, your budget is dependent upon the actual capital that you have on hand to invest, the cash you have on hand, not what the bank pre-approves you for, not what, oh, I can pull out all this crap from my 401k. Like, no, like, what money are you actually going to use and to invest into the property? We have to
Yeah.
invest in amenities, we have to invest in furnishings, we have to invest in design in order to compete and to be ahead. And so if you're leveraging everything on the down payment, you have nothing left over to invest in to be a top performing property in the short-term rental industry. Short-term rentals are not passive income. It's all about creating an experience. It's all about elevating, people want to stay at places that are nicer than their own. So you
Mhm.
got to have nice finishes and nice, hardware and nice amenities and nice furnishings and stuff in your house. And so we have to
It's
take
got to
our
be
cash on hand to define our budget.
yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And I was just kind of thinking of my own experience renting Airbnbs, and what I would say, I'm not in the space, but what I would say is it has to be picture perfect. Like when I look through Airbnbs, if the pictures don't look nice, I just don't care. I'm like, I'm on to the next one. And
Right.
so if the furnishings aren't nice, if the exterior isn't nice, I'm not even looking at it.
So, like where you're at, somebody has, let's say they have $100,000. They want to buy an Airbnb. Well, you're not going to go to Port Angeles or, the Oregon coast or anywhere on the coast for that matter and find something, number one, that's going to fit. Even if you could do 10% down, $1 million property, you have nothing left over. And those properties were all built in the 70s and 80s. They need work, they need updates, they need things to it. You're going to have
Yep.
to look inland. You're going to have to look on the Columbia River. You're going to have to buy a smaller type of property, a one, maybe a two bedroom, and use your capital to the rest of the capital to improve that property. So I think that a lot of times it's a lot of investors make the mistake of just over leveraging on the biggest property I can buy, but don't realize that it's based on the debt and then what your revenue is going to be. It's not going to pencil out. So,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, and I've talked about that lesson. Everybody at the end of the show, I'll ask you what's the biggest lesson you learned, and that specific lesson has been repeated so many times across the show is that you need to go into a deal with more capital, cash on hand than you think you're actually going to need, because
Yeah.
things
Story of my
always go
life.
wrong. You always need to fix something, and cash does solve all problems in real estate. Cash will solve the problem. I can't think of a problem that won't be solved by cash. So you need
Yeah,
to
that's
have that
true.
on the side in order to weather the hard times.
That's a good point. Yeah.
All right.
So you got your budget. So you got your budget. Now you need to revenue is another key element. So I mean, these are the foundational points of our return on investment. What things cost, how much money does it make? Am I left over with anything net? Like that's your ROI, right? So we really do have to look at revenue. And what I mean by that is, are there properties? If I go 4 hours from a city and I'm in middle of nowhere, Kansas, are there properties that are generating revenue there? Not just like $20,000, but are they generating the revenue that I want to see based on my goals? And so what I like to do is I literally look at some of you have to use data here. You have to go to, there's data platforms like AirDNA that's paid for. SDR Insights, my company, it's free. You can go in and plug in an address and it will tell you revenue of properties in those areas. There's Data Rebu, there's Price Labs. There's lots of data sources out there where you can source and see what revenue is. And if there are properties making, I typically look for $100,000 or more. If they're making that number, that means that there are obviously people going there and they're willing to pay money, and there might be some opportunity there. So revenue is the third step: is are there properties in those markets generating the revenue that I'm going to need and for this to be a good deal?
And
So
your minimum is 100,000.
that's what I tell people.
Hmm.
Me personally, the properties I buy, I'm buying $1 million plus properties. I have to see properties doing 200, $300,000, but that
Okay.
just ties
W-
back into my goals. So,
What
yeah.
is like what's the OpEx ratio for short-term rental? Like is it I couldn't even put a pencil on it. Is it 45%, 55%?
It's actually, so I think the way, okay, so your operating costs. Yeah, your operating costs are going to be minus your mortgage and your debt service. So it's going to usually be about anywhere from 40 to 50%, maybe even higher. So
Okay.
what I tell people to keep it simple, because when we look at short-term rental data, it shows us gross revenue, not net,
Right.
which is really deceiving. But I mean, you can't, like, net can be defined depending on if you buy it with cash or a type of loan or the terms or all this good stuff. So what I look at is I say a gross yield or gross ROI. So I want at least a 15 to 20% gross ROI in the market. So if my budget's 500,000, then I better be seeing properties grossing $100,000 in that market. That's a 20% ROI.
Got it. Okay. So that makes sense. So you are looking at the purchase price and you want the revenue to be 20% of whatever you're buying it for. If it's a million,
Correct.
you want 200,000. If it's,
Yeah.
on and on. That makes sense. Okay. Um, apologize. I'm still getting over the
No, you're
sickness
fine.
that my daughter gave me. So,
Dude, story of the life. I got 2
yeah,
toddlers too, and when the one goes to preschool and comes back sick, we all get sick,
it's
so
just never ending. For the past, literally, like the past 2 months, I've just been sick after sick. But it's
yes.
all right. What we
Yes.
do as parents, right?
I know, right?
All right, so we're on to that was number 3. We are on to number 4. We've talked about drivable from cities, your budget, and your revenue. Let's talk about it. What's number 4?
So number 4 is regulation.
Mm,
The big one that you talked about earlier. Can you legally STR in this market? And if you can, what are the requirements? Is there zoning? Is there occupancy? Are there caps? Are there, like what is it going to take to STR in this market? The number one thing I kind of alluded to this earlier is community sentiment. Are
mm.
people pro vacation, short-term rentals and people coming in for Airbnb or against it? If the community is against it, why fight against the current? So
Yeah.
I bought a hotel in New Orleans. And one of the reasons why I love New Orleans as a hotel investment market is because they hate Airbnbs. They hate it. Okay. Like a
Interesting.
lot of metropolitan areas. New Orleans is a vacation market. People go down there to party and have a good time and vacate. It's very historic. It's cool and everything. But it is a vacation market. But they hate Airbnbs because of the city and their policy. I don't even know. I don't even
For
care.
whatever reason, yeah.
Yeah, it's like whatever. So what do? I don't go buy an Airbnb in New Orleans and go against the current. I go buy a hotel because that's what they support. That's what they promote. That's what they want you to do. So
Yeah.
I do what they want you to do. And then in other markets where, like beach markets, for example, or mountain markets, I could go buy a hotel there, but the returns aren't even nearly as close as if I bought an Airbnb because that's what people want. Families are traveling there and they want to stay in Airbnbs. And
Mm,
so now, I don't have to target families in this example, but like the community sentiment is everything. And there are communities like, so I still buy in New York and they have crazy rules, but the rules in the vacation markets, they're strict, but they're not so strict where it doesn't make it a good deal. It's just strict to keep people out when they hear that there are rules, but they want to protect their community and their residents. There's nothing wrong with that.
yeah.
And if you can get in, like some of my properties and some of the deals I have where I got in, the returns are insane from all the hula hoops that I had to jump through, you know?
Yeah.
I did get an
Yeah.
environmental impact report on one of my properties that's been a residential home forever.
On a
Like,
single
what?
family? That's
Like, what?
crazy.
What is this? I'm not building anything. Like, yeah, it's just, I'm like, whatever, I'll do this, and this is a property I bought for $350,000 that nets $80,000 a year. Net. That's
Wow.
profit, not gross.
That is insane.
Yeah,
Huh.
it is insane. I will fill out as many environmental impact reports as you want me to do if I can net those kind of numbers, right? So,
That's funny. Somebody I
yeah,
know who's in self-storage, he actually looks for cities that are hard to build in because he says the harder it is, the less competition you have for building because a lot of people just don't want to deal with the headache. So they'll
right.
go to an easier market. But because there's less competition, that means that you have a higher likelihood of success. And so he actually looks for those markets that are, cities just are tough to deal with. It takes 3 years to get a permit, all that kind of stuff. And he sees that as a benefit rather than something that kind of pushes him away from a deal.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, like we have to, as investors, whenever there's like an anomaly return or like a abnormal return, it's only a matter of time before everybody jumps on the trend or jumps on that, right? And we've seen
Yeah.
that with short-term rentals just across overall the Airbnb market. And so I'm really focused on, I call it a moat with every property I buy, something that separates me from the competition. So when everybody sees my numbers, they can't just go in and replicate the same thing and bring down my returns.
Yeah, that makes sense. So regulation, it's a big one. You got to find the cities. What are the steps that you take to actually go out there and identify the metros that you want to be investing in?
Yeah. So the first thing I do, actually, believe it or not, is um, I'll go into Chat GPT and type in like, what are the regulations in
Classic.
this market? And it's gotten a lot better. It's a lot more updated. But the number one thing, and this will tie into the biggest mistake I've ever made. You need to be willing to pick up the phone and
Mm,
call. I always
yeah.
call. I always before, and I'll call municipalities. I'll talk to someone. I'll learn. I'll get the understanding and the sentiment, and know what the rules are. And then the other thing too is I'll go knock on the neighbors' doors on the property I'm about to buy, even if it's in a vacation market, even if it's in one of those perfect places and the regulations are fine. I will go knock on my neighbor's door and say, "Hey, I'm going to run this as a short term rental. I'm a little bit nicer than that and have a way of doing it, but like I'm going to run this as a short term rental. Do you have any problems with that?" And if they say no, I don't buy the property. Like I don't do it because they will
Wow.
break the deal. So that fourth
You
step
mean
is
if they say yes? Yeah, you said, "Do you have a problem with that?" If they say, "Yes, I do have a problem with that," then you don't buy
oh,
the
sorry.
deal?
Yeah. If they
Got
say,
it, okay.
yeah, sorry. I was thinking like, no, I don't want you to do a short term rental. But yeah, like if they say, yes, I have a problem with you doing it as a short term rental, we don't do it. And
Yeah.
what we have found is every time we do that, myself and my business partner, we end up, they become friends. They actually, some of our neighbors, like one of our neighbors does our landscaping for us, and other ones are quality
Nice.
control guy. Like they keep an eye out on the property. They love that kind of stuff. So
Nice. Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense, and I've said that so many times on the podcast is when you're doing your due diligence, call the cities, call the well, what I specifically do is I call the police station. I ask them for, what kind of calls you get in this area is, prone to property crime, that kind of stuff. Call
Mm.
property managers, call the city development, see what they want in the area that you're buying. So that makes a lot of sense. You're going straight to the source and you're getting it from the people who are actually making the regulations. So that brings us to number 5. This is the last one. What is it?
It's pretty straightforward. It's resources. So
Mm,
with short-term rentals, look, we're not going to clean the properties ourselves. You shouldn't clean the properties yourself. You're not going to go and fix anything that every little thing that's wrong and all this stuff. You've got to have local boots on the ground that know what they're doing and have the same level of eye. Reviews make or break this business, and so you have to have good cleaners. So if you go in a market and you hire a cleaner and you fire her, and the only other cleaner available is her sister, that's a problem. So you really, really need to be careful on, making sure that there are local resources in place that can help you because reality is whenever something happens, you're not going to be there to fix it or replace it. You're going to have to rely on someone else. And so local teams are really what makes or breaks this business.
yeah, that makes sense. You mentioned reviews make or break the business. How do you deal? The same goes. We buy self storage facilities, and the same goes for self storage. You got to have good reviews. How do you guys deal with customers? For in our instance, we do lockouts. If they're delinquent, they don't pay their rent, then we do a lockout. They can't access their unit. And those customers are the ones that always go on Google and they're like, "This is the worst facility ever. The management sucks." Yada yada yada. So how do you deal with bad reviews and keeping maintaining that 4.7 plus rating?
I mean, arguably, we want a 4.95 or more, but we have a really high standard. So number one is all about communication and priming the guest. So a lot of people in Airbnb think guests, they think a five-star review means like it's a five-star hotel. It's not the same rating system. A five-star is great, a four-star is bad. That's it. That's how drastic it is. Like you give me a
Interesting.
four-star and you're like, it was a great stay. I am pissed off because that is not there had to be something wrong for it to be a four-star. I get
Yeah.
penalized if it's a four-star. It has to be a five. So number one, it starts with educating guests on the difference between a five, four, three, two, one. Like we have stickers and magnets and things and we tell people, but even our communication from the beginning, we say thank you for booking our place. We are excited that you're going to come stay and we're going to provide you a five-star stay. If there's ever anything you need, let us know. And then before they check in, we're excited to host you and have a five-star stay. Like we're literally priming them. And then at the end we ask them for
Five
the
star,
review.
5 star, 5 star. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, like, when we ask them, it's like it's not even awkward. They know it's
Yeah.
coming. And that's number 1, and then number 2 is just the, making sure if anything is wrong, being able to fix it or replace it fast. And so we're really, really good at that, but inevitably, a four-star does come in, and you can't be emotional about it. You just gotta dust yourself off and, keep going. So
Yeah.
it happens,
And
and,
unfortunately, it kind of makes me, it frustrates me that there's nothing to do. as a business owner, you can't do anything about negative reviews, even if they're completely off base. Even if,
Yeah.
they were delinquent, they're the ones not paying, and then they leave us a bad review. There's nothing there. Google, we're specifically talking about Google, but they won't do anything for that review. All you can do is message the person and say, hey, we would like for you to not to amend your review. You can reply to the comment, but that really doesn't do much. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
We have run it down. We're already at 25
Yeah,
minutes.
you're good. We're good.
And so I do need to push us on. Before we do that, though, I wanted to talk a bit about boutique hotels, because short-term rentals, they're the new thing, but really what they are, it's hospitality. It is a hotel in and of itself. And so anybody who buys a short-term rental, you're not buying a rental, you're buying a business. It is a hospitality business, just like boutique hotels. So why did you what is the difference between your experience with a boutique hotel and short-term rentals? And actually, first define boutique hotel for people. What does that mean to you?
So I can say this because I have one. I define boutique hotels essentially as fancy motels.
Nice, I
I
like that.
think boutique hotels is a trendy word for
Hmm.
a renovated motel, because that's
Yeah,
pretty much what people do. They take motels and they turn them into nicer motels.
yeah. I know
I
that
and
that is what I
I
was gonna
get
say, but I I didn't
yeah,
want to
I
be
get it's so
offensive to
funny.
the
I
people out
posted
there.
that once and oh man, people are like, "Oh, well, blah, blah, blah." There's an actual definition of a hotel and a motel.
Mm,
You can look it up, and so if you're listening to this and you feel offended, look those up. It's a joke, but at the end of the day, I mean, they're that's kind of what they are. Um, but here's the biggest difference for me from a short-term rental and a boutique hotel, and this is very important. People need to understand that. It's the goal behind it.
mm,
So, short-term rentals are not considered a commercial or a separate asset class. They're considered residential real estate. So it doesn't matter how much revenue this a short-term rental can make. I can't sell it based on a cap rate. It can only sell based on residential comps. Whereas a hotel, if I force revenue higher or improve that hotel and make it produce higher and give it a higher cap rate, I can absolutely change the worth and the value of that property. So short term rentals are all about cash flow and hotels are all about appreciation. So I have a
mm.
short term rental. My biggest short term rental property I bought for $1 million. It's a 9 bedroom, 7 bath. It grosses about $400,000 a year. It nets $175,000 a year. It took us about 4 months to get it up and going. It's in Kentucky on the Bourbon Trail.
And
Okay.
when you say net, are you meaning cash flow?
Yes.
You're talking about after
Yes.
mortgage.
That is
Okay,
correct. Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I don't mess
Hmm,
around with these things.
That's
These
that's
properties, these
amazing.
are
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
they're resort style. So that one is like so that nets it's $1 million property that nets 175. Okay. We put
yeah.
serious cap, we put about 450 into it. It's a really cool place, like a little micro resort. But it's just a big house. So the hotel we bought for 1.4 million. We did an $800,000 renovation and it only nets 70K a year. Well, Kenny, why would you do that when you can go buy the $1 million property that nets 175, two times what the other one is?
Very reasonable
Here's
question. Why would you do
here's the
that?
difference. Yeah, here's the difference. When we got done with the hotel and we got the numbers back, and we repositioned or refinanced, we remember we bought it for 1.5. It reappraised for 4 million.
Mm.
It's about the appreciation. I could care less about the cash flow. I don't even care. I'm sure. I mean, yeah, it'd be nice if it cash flowed more. I mean, wouldn't anything be nice? But it was about the $1 million check that was written to me at the reposition.
Hmm. Interesting. I actually
So
did not know. So I mean, I personally, anytime I look at any real estate, I do it on a cap rate basis. Like I run those numbers, even if it's a short term. I have looked at short term before, and I ran what I thought the NOI would be, and then I applied a cap rate to it to kind of get a sense of what it was trading for. And I didn't. When you say you can't sell it on a cap rate basis, you're just saying that if you listed it on the MLS, there would be no cap rate to it, right? Is that what
correct.
you're saying?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can't get lending based on a cap rate for a short-term rental.
Okay, that makes sense.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
like when people are like, "Oh, like the cap rate is great to compare, oh, like what is the cap rate of a short-term rental versus a long-term rental?" Like comparisons.
Mhm.
But it will never banks don't lend off that.
Yeah.
right?
You're
And
just talking
so
about repositioning, getting bank lending, pulling your
yeah.
equity out,
You
that kind of stuff.
and you can do, like, essentially, like, I call it a stir, a burr stir, a stir,
You heard it
STR.
here first, folks. There it is.
Yeah, and, you could do that, like, you could and we've done that before, like, we go in and we renovate the property, we make it nice, turn it into a short-term rental and refinance it, and we could do a cash out or just pull some money out from it that it forcing appreciation from it. But man, oh man, you can't improve the value of that property purely based on revenue.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and
That
that's
makes
what I like about the hotel or the commercial side. You make more money, it's now worth more, you
yeah.
know? So, I'm really good at making short-term rental. That's why I've started to pivot, or not pivot, but just add these other investments, because I figured out how to make a lot of money, which, we've talked about already, in short-term rentals. And I'm like, I kind of want to be rewarded for that in other ways. And so I've moved on. And that's the biggest. I mean, there's management, there's so much more management in the hotel side, and we have full-time staff and all these, there's a lot of stuff going on. But
Yeah.
that not all that stuff sucks, and I hate that part of it. But the best part's the appreciation. It's a
Yeah.
$1,000,000 check that I was able to cash in
You
like 2 years. You know?
can't say
I
no to
I
that,
can't
right?
do that. I can't get that in cash flow in 2
Right.
years. So that's the advantage of the hotel or the commercial side. I'll just say commercial because there's a lot of different commercial ways to do it. But
Yeah, yeah, that repositioning commercial assets, that's same strategy goes across every single different thing you buy. But if you want cash flow, go for the STRs. That makes a lot of sense to me. And with that, we are already at 30 minutes. So I got to push us on to the quick question round. Are you ready?
yep, let's do it.
All right. Starts with education. It could be any form. It could be a conference you've gone to, a mentorship program you've been a part of, book you've read, movie you've seen, anything. But I need two specific recommendations: one for general life wisdom, and then one for real estate.
Oh man. Okay. So um let's start books. Books are really good. So one of the books that's helped me in the short term rental, and I'm gonna speak from a short term rental operator, host, and investor. Riches are in the niches. So there's a really good book by Mike Michalowicz. He originally wrote Profit First, which most real estate investors know. That's his first one. His second one I actually recommend, and it's called The Pumpkin Plan for Short Term Rental Hosts. And he specifically talks about how competitive like the huge, like 2,200-pound pumpkins are grown. And, they basically grow a pumpkin patch and they find the ones that have the most potential and they kill all the other ones off. And they put all the resources and time and energy into that one pumpkin and it grows and makes it huge. And that's, how they win competitions. And so he compares that into business where it's like, you have all these types of customers that you can target. And when you market to everyone, you're marketing to no one. And the more specific and the more targeted you can get, there's more money to be made in that. And I've seen that in short-term rentals all the time. So our Bourbon Trail property, the one that we net 175K on, we target who's going to the Bourbon Trail. Not, I mean, sure,
Hmm.
you could argue, families would visit, but not really families, right? It's people going to drink bourbon. It's like the Napa Valley, but of Kentucky. And so it's older people. So what are our amenities? We have 2 hot tubs, not 1 hot tub. We have
Hmm.
it's adult friendly games, adult this, the theming, the design, it's darker colors, it's moodier, there's more king beds. There's no bunk beds in that property, whereas our Dallas property is family friendly. There's a ton of bunk beds because we know we're going to host kids and that's what families want. And so the design, the approach, the amenities, everything changes. And the more niche down you can be, the more money you can make. When that clicked for me, that's when I took it to another level. That's when I went from cool, I'm, finding these properties that net 50K to properties that net well over $100,000 a year. And that book inspired me to do that. So I recommend
Nice.
everyone read it. It's called The Pumpkin Plan.
Pumpkin plan. Yeah, we've not heard of that one. That's a good recommendation. Um, and so that was your real estate one. Give us just one general life wisdom.
Oh man. I mean, at the end of the day, and this is probably a common one you get, I'll keep it brief. Prioritization. So like, one of the hardest things. So I left a corporate job. This is for people who are thinking about leaving and investing fully in real estate. Is when you leave a 9 to 5, you all of a sudden have all this time and you tend to just throw it all into your work, but you still need a work life balance. And I work from home and I literally like staring out my office window and I can see one of the girls run by. Like I got to have some sort of balance in my life. I could be stuck in here all day, but I need to take time to spend with my family, and that's something that I've personally been like working on and improving. But it all comes down to your priorities. And so, if you are going to leave your job and or and go full time in real estate investing or whatever, being an entrepreneur, having a business, you need to identify your priorities first before you take that leap.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, easier said than done when you got a business, because there's always something you can do, and so you really need to
And all the hats you
draw
wear,
a hard
right?
line. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. All right, next question is for your younger self. Let's go back to the Kenny who is still working. I think he said at Citibank. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
I mean, honestly, this is probably so the cliche answer is start sooner, right? But the real one that would have kept me from making a mistake, and I think that's actually more valuable because the more mistakes I make, the more that slows me down and builds moment or kills momentum. Don't be afraid to pick up the phone and call people, especially cities or municipalities, about the rules and regulations. I've had that burn me twice, and it was just idiotic. I've spent thousands of dollars. I bought a house where I couldn't STR. I bought land and I did all this prep work and time and energy, went and visited. It was out in Arizona. I own land in the middle of a desert in the middle of nowhere. And I can't STR, I can't do anything with it. I just own land because I didn't call the county. I waited to do it. I was like, oh, it'll be fine. They won't, it's not a big deal. I heard it's fine. Pick up the phone. Don't take someone else's word for something. Don't take Chat GPT's word, even though I said I use Chat GPT. Pick up the phone.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's all
absolutely.
I feel passionate about that because that's what I would tell myself.
Yeah. No, that is really good advice. And I would add on top of that, don't ever skip a step in your due diligence. I've been burned by that too, is you feel like you visited the property, you've been looking at it for so long, you feel like you know everything, but you don't. There's other, follow the due diligence checklist because it's there for a reason. You
Yeah,
need to check all those boxes to make sure that it truly does fit your criteria and it's going to be a good investment. So yeah, I like it. Moving us on to the next question. This is a good one for you because you're in short-term rentals. We're talking about the U.S. It is a big place. There is a ton of opportunity out there. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
Yeah, so the single metro is I love I personally and maybe I lived up there because I'm biased, but there's so many people. It's the New York metro area, New York, Philadelphia. I mean, there's so many cities, Boston, they're all within like hour driving, hour, 2 hours, 3 hour driving distance of each other. And all of those markets around there, just access to, I think it's over 13, 15 million people that can access these places within 3 to 4 hours. I mean, that there's just so much opportunity there, but people are afraid of it because they hear, oh, taxes, or they think of regulation or whatever. And, I'm just like, look for those opportunities where everyone else is running from. So
Nice, I like it. So you're saying that whole northeast, a northeast quadrant around New York.
for
That's
short-term rentals, absolutely. Yeah.
yeah, makes sense. All right, next question is about finding deals. It all starts with getting in contact with the seller and penning that purchase agreement. So, what is your favorite way to generate leads and find new deals?
In the short-term rental space, especially looking at a broad range of markets around the country, really, I mean, the secret is having good agents who understand short-term rentals. Like I said, I'm gonna speak from a short-term rental investor standpoint only. So when I call an agent, do they own short-term rentals? Do they manage short-term rentals? What's their experience selling short-term rentals? Or they only sell like, do they know what the regulations are? Do they know the resources in the market? If their answers are no, 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 obviously they're not the right one for me. So it's not, oh, can I find an agent who can find residential homes for sale? It's not what I'm looking for. I don't care if it's in a good school district or not. That's not why I'm buying the property, right? I've heard that one before. And it's like that. No, like I'm looking for people who know what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. So when I tell them, hey, I want you to go video who the neighbors areas, or this area, or hey, how visible are the telephone pole lines, or all that, like these little things. They
Mm-hmm.
know why I'm asking those questions.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know so
yeah. That makes sense. So, call or real estate agents, and that's brokers. Commercial brokers is something that I've just been kicking myself because For most of my career, I always thought that you could only find good deals off market, but that is 100% not true. You can find
Yep.
good deals on market. So go out there, start networking, calling those agents.
Some of the
Just
best deals I've bought have been on the market for over 100 days.
oh,
'Cause
interesting.
they're not positioned correctly. The photos are terrible. There's just the listing agent's complete, was a dunce. And it's one of those things where it's like, if you have an agent who's like, no, I've been to this property, it's actually really nice, or it's in a really cool area, it's got amazing views they didn't take photos of. That I mean, those relationships pay off. So
Yep. All right, next question. Moving us on to lessons learned. This is obviously about lessons learned. Not every deal we get into goes the way we expect it. In fact, pretty much every time something is going to go wrong, and that's when we get to learn lessons. So, take us back to the single deal where that went a little bit sideways for you, and then what was the lesson you pulled from it?
yeah, so one Yeah, so I already mentioned the regulation one, but let's go into the second failure that I've had. There was another property I bought. It was a beautiful house in downtown Buffalo, New York. But the problem was there was no parking. And I didn't think about that. I
Mm,
was like, oh, we're going to host 16 people, and there's only on-street parking. So what happens when all the parking's taken? There's nothing reserved.
yeah,
Got terrible guest reviews, really hurt our business. It was just like, what were we thinking? We didn't have the guest avatar in mind. Goes back to the pumpkin plan, goes back to everything I talked about. Who and why are they coming? What things are they going to want? And obviously, I didn't think about that. I was looking, oh, that's a cool house. That's a good price. And if I host 16 people, I can make X amount in revenue. But I wasn't thinking about the guest and what types of things they needed. And that became a terrible purchase. And we actually had to get out of that one pretty quickly.
that's interesting. Yeah, parking is something that I would not, I wouldn't think about that buying a short term rental, but it makes a lot of sense. If you're packing that place tight with guests, then they need to be able to get there and park their
Yeah.
cars. So
Yeah, when you're like, "Oh, wow, this is like a 6 bedroom, 3 bath." You're like, "Yeah, this can work. This can sleep 16 people comfortably, but needs to be able to park in space." I mean, that's been one things I've realized in this industry is space is so valuable. I mean, when you start seeing in every review, no parking or people complaining, there's just nothing you can do about it. I
like
mean,
shit,
that
this is
you're
going
helpless. You're
downhill
like,
quick.
"Crap, what was I thinking?" So
All right. That leads us to the next question. The obverse of the lessons learned. We're talking about the highlight reel. Sometimes things go right, and those deals stands out in our mind as something that we want to repeat. So, what was a deal that just kind of went perfect for you? And tell us about it.
Um, definitely the first one I did where I took a leap of faith and I invested in a new market that I had no idea about, where I actually relied on the data instead of just like what I knew. That was the first one I bought. It was a bed and breakfast, and I bought it for $350,000, converted it into an Airbnb, put about 100,000 into it, and that's the one that nets me 80K a year.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah,
crazy.
I would love
450 all in, and you're netting 80. That's great.
yeah.
All
So
right.
I love that one, yeah, because it's also one of those markets where it's got high regulations and people can't just the swarms can't enter in and compete, and so it's just kind of bread and butter every single year. So
If only you could repeat it, right?
yeah, exactly.
All right. Second to last question. This is about AI. This is actually a new question that we've been asking because I'm a huge proponent of adding AI wherever I can responsibly in my business. So I like to ask the guests that as well. Where are you implementing AI? You've already mentioned Chat GPT a number of times. So where are you implementing AI in your business? And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so I mean, we mainly use it for helping us get like research and understand different markets. So my business helps people find deals, right? So when we're looking at a new market, besides regulation, how many people are coming here? Why are people coming here? What do we need to know about this market? Seasonality trends and traffic drivers and compression events, which are basically just festivals or other things of why people come to the area. AI can just get all that crap for you and put it out in a simple way to summarize and go, okay, cool. Like we see why this is a good potential market beyond just the numbers on a spreadsheet that says, hey, this has a high ROI potential.
Yeah. Yeah. And AI, especially I like to use Perplexity for this one, but it will scan like the municipality's website, and it'll tell
Yep.
you where development is, like if there's any big projects coming on. Like there's a data center near a self-storage facility, or at least there's a planned data center near a facility I own, that I wouldn't have kind of figured out unless I had asked AI, what are the opportunities in this area? What do you think?
Mm.
So yeah, research is a really good use. One of the best uses of AI that I've found. All right, that leads us to the very last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. This is a two-parter. Where can they find you, and then what can they expect when they reach out?
Yeah, so I'm not that popular or cool, so they can direct message me. I tell people go on my social media at Kenny_Bedwell is my handle or my at. You can message me and I will respond directly to you. So if you're like, hey Kenny, I'm looking at getting into STRs, what do I need to know or where should I start or like what things should I look at? I'll point you in the right direction. I've got YouTube, podcasts, videos, obviously social media stuff. I've got a lot of good free reports. Like I got a lot of good free information that can point people in the right direction, or I'll just tell you. So
Yeah.
I'm really good at. I love teaching and helping people, and so if you message me, I'll respond back. So.
And tell people a little bit about STR Insights. Like, what do you guys offer, and how can they get involved there?
Yeah, so SDR Insights is a consulting platform that helps people find deals. So they hire our team to find them profitable short-term rental deals that actually cash flow and make sense based on their goals and budget and preferences. And we actually help them set it up, launch it, and support them on the back. And we don't property manage. I don't do that. Uh, I'll help you if you want someone to do that for you, but to also teach you how to do it on your own without stressing about it. So we work with a lot of people who are doctors, attorney, like high W-2 income who are looking to offset taxes by buying short-term rentals, who don't have the time to do the searching. We do the searching for them and finding and launching. So imagine getting the keys to a brand new Ferrari and we just say, hop in. So you just got to write the check for the Ferrari. So I
I
can't
like it.
buy the property for you, but I'll find it for you and do everything else. So
Perfect. I'll put those links in the show notes. So if you guys want to reach out to Kenny, all you got to do is click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description, and in there you can find his links.
awesome.
All right, man. We almost hit an hour. This has got to be one of the longest episodes, but I love it. It's been a pleasure having you on. So thanks for being
Yeah,
here.
no, yeah, thank you so much. Okay, so you do it's real quick side tangent. I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. So you mentioned about doing a lot of self-storage. Do you have like a group or something or what do you cuz I live in Raleigh and this place is just booming. And I'm like, "Man, oh man, there is self-storage here, but I'm